My fiance and I sat on the set of the Ricki Lake show. I'd finally gotten myself on national television. Now, I couldn't wait to get off. A year earlier, I adapted an essay from my unpublished memoir, and it was published on Salon.com. The essay described a crazy weekend my ex-wife and I had spent on Fire Island. We did drugs and had sex with other people. Things didn't end well. Salon titled my essay, "Our Polyamory Disaster." I hated that title because it made it sound like I was condemning polyamory. But I wasn't. My story was about how perilous it could be to live out your fantasy, which in my case was to behave like Charlie Sheen on a bender at the Playboy Mansion. My story got the attention of the polyamorous community, and not in a good way. They said that my ex and I had been engaged in a nasty, self-indulgent free-for-all, which had nothing to do with loving, stable, polyamorous relationships. I agreed with them. The essay also got the attention of Ricki Lake. A producer called. Would I like to appear? I wanted to be a serious writer. I thought daytime talk shows were sensationalistic, inane, beneath me. I said yes, immediately. Being an aspiring writer means no money, no stability, no idea of when or if the rejections will end. Ricki Lake was on national TV. Who knew where it could lead? A book deal, a film adaptation. Martin Scorsese would call and snap up the rights to my story. There was one problem. The show wanted my ex-wife to appear with me. I hadn't spoken to her for years. Now I was engaged to Denise, a wonderful woman who hadn't run screaming after hearing the stories of my past. When I told Denise the problem, she came up with a solution. She said, "They asked for your past. Give them your present. I can show them another perspective. You know, how it feels to be involved with a former degenerate." I called the producer back and pitched the idea, which is showbiz lingo for begging. 3 days later, we were on a plane to LA. There was a driver and a limo waiting for us at the airport. They put us up at a boutique hotel. The next morning, the producer walked us to MGM Studios, where we got hair and makeup and wardrobe. Our names appeared outside the door of our very own green room, stocked with snacks and drinks. The wardrobe girl told Denise she looked hot. A producer told me I was handsome. I thought I could get used to this. Finally, it was time. A tech led us backstage where we watched a live feed of the show. Ricki interviewed an attractive couple who, with the enthusiasm of the converted, told their story. They'd been married and monogamous. Then, 12 years in, he admitted an attraction to another woman. One thing had led to many. Now, they counseled other couples seeking progressive relationships. Apparently, a progressive relationship is one that progresses from a marriage to a rugby scrum. At the commercial break, we were led onto the set and positioned on a sofa. 200 sets of eyes gave us the once-over. Ricki's voice, earnest and enthusiastic, boomed. "Next up, we'll meet Nick, whose open lifestyle destroyed a relationship he thought would last forever." And we'll meet his fiancée, Denise, who is terrified that she can't possibly compete with his past. Denise and I gave each other a sideways look. They hadn't just spun our story, they jacked it up on crystal meth. The break ended, and I launched into what really happened. I recounted how I'd been seduced by a life of excess, and how that excess had eventually caught up to me. I'd lived out some fantasies and gotten them out of my system. I'd moved on. Denise explained that, given my history, she'd had some doubts, but the fact that I had never tried to glorify my past had helped her come to terms. Things were going smoothly. Too smoothly. We went to break. A producer knelt behind the sofa. She said to Denise, "I think you're much angrier and more threatened than you're letting on." She squeezed Denise's shoulder. She said, "It's okay to express it." A moment later, the polyamorous couple was brought back on stage and seated right next to us. It wasn't a cautionary tale of the past Ricki Lake wanted from Denise and me. It was a present-day throwdown. I should have seen it coming. If I'd learned anything from my past, it was that fulfilling a fantasy comes with a price. Turns out the fantasy of celebrity was expensive too. And I had just been presented the bill. They wanted me to play the insensitive asshole pining for his past. They wanted Denise to play the naive fiancé who clings on in a hopeless struggle to save her man's doomed soul. The break ended, and Ricki asked the polyamorous couple, "What do you have to say to the skeptics who condemn your lifestyle?" The woman said, "In over 60% of marriages, someone is unfaithful. We have to get past the lies and live with openness and honesty." The woman looked at me. "I don't know what kind of life you were leading, but we don't do drugs and we don't lie." Ricki's eyes shifted to me. I could feel the audience lean forward in their seats. I knew a fight would make good TV. I even thought of just the line to start it. All I had to say was, "Telling your partner you're going to cheat might make you open and honest. It also makes you a selfish asshole." I squeezed Denise's hand. She squeezed back. Whatever I decided to do, she was with me. Now I had to decide which me to be. The real one, or the one Ricki Lake wanted? I said, "Look, couples should do whatever works for them. I'm just telling you what didn't work for me." And there went the show. Instead of providing a blaze of fireworks, Denise and I had run around the yard with a couple of sparklers. Ricki thanked us for a thoughtful discussion, and it was over. And I don't just mean the episode. A few weeks later, the distributor of the Ricki Lake show announced that they would not renew it for another season. What came of my appearance on the show? Nothing. No calls from literary agents with book deals, no movie producers, no Martin Scorsese. I'm back to being the aspiring writer. I wanted to tell my story about the perils of fantasy so much I'd allowed myself to be seduced by the fantasy of fame. But if celebrity is a disease, the small dose of it I received from being on Ricki Lake was like getting inoculated. I won't ever again risk my reputation, my relationship, and my dignity for fame. Unless I get that call from Jerry Springer.